Welcome back to Simplify with Ryan. Today I want to do a short video about China. Now, I've talked a lot about China in my tariff videos over the last couple of weeks. Today I just want to make 3 simple observations that I think are important and perhaps are getting overlooked by the mainstream media. Now, part of my goal here is to be a neutral source of information, to provide some level of analysis that's not shrouded in political motivation, that's not on either side of the aisle, but definitely sort of cuts down the middle and provides some neutral analysis, at least as far as I can be neutral. I try to be as neutral as possible. We all have our own biases, but I try to eliminate as much as I possibly can when I share my opinions with you. Now, before we go on, if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot. We are new and growing, and so it really does make a difference if you do click those buttons. It will definitely make my day, so please do those things. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your opinions. I think your opinions are just as valid as mine, and it's nice to have some balance. When I present my perspective, I love to hear yours as well. Now, the first point I want to make is pretty clear. The Trump administration has been applying these tariffs globally for some period of time now. The way that this has been done, in my opinion, has been very erratic. It has not been equitable. The logic isn't particularly clear. And so a baseline tariff of 10%, but then based upon net import-export, countries can see huge tariffs applied to their imports into the United States. I think this is problematic for a lot of reasons. But ultimately, this application of global tariffs has attacked all types of countries, both allies and adversaries. It has applied tariffs at a base level and at a very aggressive level in most cases. I think this erratic nature, this dynamic shift that included both application of tariffs at the outset, but then an easing of tariffs in some cases, and then an increase in tariffs in other cases, specifically relative to China, this has shown a great sort of erratic, unbalanced nature to how this particular policy is being unfolded in the global economic sphere. This is problematic, again, for a variety of reasons. But it brings me to my second point, and that is that when something like this happens at such a large scale, and it's perpetrated by one country, the dominant global power, which currently is the United States, it tends to undermine our long-term credibility because we're not going forward with a very strategic plan. It's more of a universal, let's hit everyone plan, and then force other countries to come to the table and renegotiate their trade deals with the United States. This is a blanket policy that attacks all sorts of allies on top of attacking adversaries. And so instead of focusing in specifically on segments of this population, perhaps the worst offenders who have the most unbalanced or unfair trade deals with the United States, instead, we're focusing on everyone. And this undermines our position as a global economic power. Now, unfortunately, when something like this happens, there are always negative consequences down the road. There are many that are unforeseen now. And unfortunately, I think we're going to pay a price. I think our reputation has suffered a great deal globally. And because of this, we'll have some big challenges down the road. I can't really tell you what those challenges will be, but I certainly think that some are on the horizon for the United States. Now, the final point I'll make is that all of these things together have actually started to disincentivize countries from investing in the United States. Now, one of the core components of the tariffs is to bring manufacturing back from overseas into the United States. Now, this was a really good move, in my opinion. We certainly need to invest in manufacturing capabilities. For many, many years, we've exported manufacturing to countries who are willing to do those types of jobs for cheaper because they have different types of labor policies in place. And we've benefited from cheaper goods in the United States. But the long-term ramification of that decision has been a loss of capability, of core capability in the United States to build things on our own. That increases our dependency on other countries, which has resulted in this great inequity in terms of our trade with countries like China. Now, attempting to right that wrong is not a short process. It's a very long process. It will require multiple administrations. 4 years is simply not enough time to reverse this type of decision that's been made and reiterated through multiple administrations for a very, very long period of time. Now, while I admire this move to bring manufacturing back to the United States, the way that this program has been applied will likely result in, again, the United States' reputation suffering, undermining our ability to do deals globally, to negotiate globally, to form partnerships globally. In addition, we are incentivizing not only adversarial countries or neutral countries who participate in the United States because we are an economic power, we are incentivizing these countries to invest elsewhere. Instead of buying assets in US dollars in the United States, like treasuries and other assets, countries are now moving their investments to other countries. This includes China. It isn't limited to China, but it definitely includes China. And China, if smart, will take advantage, will leverage this shift and bring more investment into China versus the United States. We also are driving allies away. If we had separated allies from adversaries and been less punitive with our allies, or taken a different approach altogether by sitting down at a table and negotiating versus slapping an arbitrary tariff on them, we probably would see fewer countries not coming to the table, and instead we'd have a stronger partnership that was built on a foundation of trust. Unfortunately, we are eroding trust by just blanketly slapping tariffs across the board on allies and adversaries alike. I don't know how this ends. I actually think that some countries with a long history and loyalty to the United States and very little incentive to partner with other powers will come to the table. Japan is a great example here. They will negotiate with President Trump and we will come to some agreement. Unfortunately, I think the number of countries that will come to the table will be much smaller than what it could have been had we taken a slightly more tactful approach and pursued these two separate tracks of negotiation versus hammering everyone and telling everyone, if you want a deal, come talk to us, but here's your punishment for now. It's a very different approach that frankly does not build trust, it does not build loyalty, but instead it raises alarm bells for other leaders, thinking we can't rely on the United States to be the consistent partner that it has been over the years. We need to start building contingencies and other plans for our foreign investment, and at the very least, a more diversified strategy from these other countries will allow them to separate from their dependency on the United States if one does exist. So again, these are just 3 simple points that I wanted to share with you from a neutral perspective. I think we are in a heap of trouble if we continue down this road. I'm hopeful that some negotiations happen with China. We're already seeing some of the tariffs relax in certain sectors, technology, auto, and I anticipate this to continue. I don't think an aggressive tit-for-tat approach with China makes a lot of sense right now. Secretary of Treasury Besant also commented that this doesn't make sense and isn't sustainable, which is probably showing some crack in how the administration is approaching this issue. All eyes will be in the coming weeks on how this negotiation continues and where different policies start to fall down. But I still think at some base level, damage has been done to our reputation. It's salvageable, of course, and hopefully this won't extend out too much further. But if it does, I think we're all smart to understand that there are risks involved in this type of behavior and that we will ultimately pay some sort of price down the line. I hope you found some value in today's video. Again, I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think about these 3 points? How do you think we should proceed with China? Is this the right path, or is there a better path that we should be taking? Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you in next week's video. Take care.